Okay, let's go to the cloud database. And then we have our tables. Okay, let's go to the request details. So go to the structure, and then these are the columns we have, right? Now let's say if you want to add one more column, you see there's an option called add column, and after which column you want to add it, and then hit go, it will say give me the name of that column, what's the type, what's the length, and then hit save. It will create that column. Okay, all right.
Yeah, got it.
So go to the any of the tables, go to the structure, and then go to the structure and scroll up, and then you go to the last, and then you will see that add option here. So how many columns you want to add? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And then after which column you want to add, and then hit go. So it will give you all those details to add it here and hit save. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So others also has done. So before we start, I was just asking any questions, guys. So there's a one question, and how do we add another column? So this is one of the way, and we can also use the update statement, right? So if you want to know what's the update statement, how it will work, let me show you that by doing so. So if you go to the comments, anything that you think of, anything that we need to add here. Employee record, we have email, we have phone number. Tell me guys, any column that we need to add so we can see one of them.
Address.
Okay, we can have city, right? From which city they are working. Okay, location. So let's go here, go to the structure, and then we say add. Can you please add one column after the let's say email? Okay, after the email, can you add one more column and hit say go, and we'll say location. Okay, and this is going to be a varchar. So I'll put say 25 characters long. Initially, it can be null. Okay, now if you want to see, like you cannot go to the database. You will not go to the database for the higher environment, and you do not do the same way, right? So what we do, we click on the preview SQL, and then it gives you the statement. So what says alter table, table name, add location, okay, and initial value will be null after the email. So this is how we add a column to a table. Okay, if you say close and then say save, this will be added. Location is added. Okay, got it. Okay, cool. So any other questions, guys, before we start?
So we can use, we can do this by using script as well, right?
Yes, definitely. If you are good with the scripts, you can do that. That's not a big deal. So if you want to do that with the scripts, you simply go to your database, okay, and then you see here, click on the Appian, because this is a database. Go to the SQL, type your SQL statement here, and then hit go. It will do that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right.
One question. So you already added that location column, right? And if you want to get that previous SQL, how can you get it now?
Okay. If you want to get that one, right? So click on the any of the particular table. Let's say if you want to get the employee record, and I want to the statement of this one, right? So click on the export. Okay. And if you want to get it without any format, all right. So everything is there, right? Click on export if you give it. Now, if you want to customize it, what do you want to use? So customize it. If you want to the number of rows as well, so let it be there, and then you can save your form here, the name and all, and then here you can see the structure data or structure and data. If you want the only structure, just select the only structure. Okay, and if you want all this statement, if they will have the trigger and all, it will take it, and then click on export. It will generate one SQL file for you, and that in SQL file you will have everything: your create table statement, your alter table, because we have primary keys, and alter table for your auto increment. So what basically we do, this all not required. So what we do basically, we remove all these things, okay, because it's a database set of things we are providing, and then this alter is required, and then we don't require this commit, and then just save it and then share with the DB team. They will execute this to your higher environment, or you can also do it by yourself. So this
So
is
in that
basically.
case, say for example, in that case, table is already there in the production. Assume that, and we are adding only that location. Okay, so during adding location, we forget to take that previous equal.
Mm-hmm.
So now we want to
No,
come
in
and
that
take
case, you
the.
need to, in that case, you need to type it by yourself, because you cannot get what you have executed just now. So you have to make sure that you take. That's why I saw you. That's, you need to make sure that you keep it. Otherwise, you have to manually type it. That you must be knowing that, okay, alter table name, and then add. You have to copy the name from here, okay, and then save it. That's how you do.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you are showing all those settings, right, in the under export tab and all. Whether those are really required, are we going to use those settings as
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of
I
our
mean, this. I
demo?
mean, see. Suppose this is the first deployment, right? This is going to be a first deployment, and nobody will keep the and at the end, let me put it in this way. This is the first application which is going to be deployed in your hardware very first time. It's a very fresh application, right? And you don't know, I mean, which or table you will need in your future, right? I mean, you are just creating, you may need some changes in the future before it's going to be deployed to the higher environment, right? So people, what they do, they keep all, make all those changes, they're ready with the application, and at the last they go and they export all those statements and then provide to the DB team to execute. So yes, you will require this uh, uh, for your any deployment purpose. Yeah.
Okay. So it's saying that export rows from MS employee record table. Is it exporting only the structure or the data table data also?
That's the option here, right? What you want? You want structure data or structure and data?
Okay, 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 fine, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Ravi, if you don't mind,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the table we have added right from the beginning, if you're adding one more table or record, right, can you please show the interface so that we will revise as well, Ravi, if you don't mind.
Okay, you want to create another table, right? Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. We
if,
will. We'll see that
if
one.
that is a
Okay.
requirement, if that is a requirement, or else please leave it. Just for
I mean,
revision.
as of now, we are not going to create any table for these two sessions, because we are enough table we have right now. We were trying to see the other things that we need to do. Like for the employee record, the data will be there. Like the employee details will be here, right? So we need to insert some of the record here. So we wanted to see that. That's and then we go for the. So in future we will create another tables, right? So there you can see that, or you can refer to the last session video, right? There it has all the
Yeah,
things.
that's what.
But
I'll refer to
yeah,
the video. I don't want to waste time of others. No problem, Ravi. Thank you.
otherwise for a quick thing I can show you. It's very easy. Just click on the new, give the table name. Okay, add few more columns if you want. Put the column names here and just hit save. That's all. Put writing all those very values, like what type is column is going to be,
Yeah,
and
my
then
my question is more like the moment the instance was up, right? Then should we click like new application and give the application name and then create all these tables? That flow I missed it yesterday, so I was asking about
okay,
that.
no, no, yeah, I mean that's not a big thing. Yeah, you just come to the designer environment, and from here you can click on the cloud database and you can create the tables.
Okay, all right,
It's
got it,
not
Ravi.
required
Thank you.
that you need to create the table before. I mean, you can create the table before creating your application also, right? Because there's nothing to do with the application. Because in the application, you see, we do not have anything related to that table yet, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had to give a application name and then come to cloud database, right?
Not necessarily, right? I mean, you remember we created this table. I mean, we can create this application for your purpose. That's fine, but you can go and create the table also initially. That's not an issue.
So without giving
Because
application name, we can
table cloud
directly create
data
the
is
table.
not within the see, the cloud database is not within the applications, right? It's a throughout
Okay.
available environment. You can create anytime, and then you can refer, go to your application to create the related object for that one.
Okay. So until now we didn't created the incident management system application yet, right? UI we didn't create it, right, Ravi?
Nothing. I mean, UI we don't have. We just created the package. I mean, this is a package that we have created, and then we just the default folders and all that it creates, right? So that's what we explained yesterday. This is what we created, and then we'll start today creating objects related to our application.
Okay, Ravi.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll refer to
Yep.
media. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. More questions of the yesterday session?
Yes, Ravi. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Actually, in that table 2, that is request detail. If we want to change something, means in the column we want to just change. How can I change?
Sorry, what do you want to do? Sorry, I didn't get you.
I want to change the column name.
Column name if you want to change. Yeah. So for everything we have the SQL statement, right? I mean, we can do that. The problem is that you should not be changing the column name very frequently. That's why make sure you give the proper column name, while creating it, because if you change the column name, that will require a lot of changes if you are start using these tables in your application, right? So that is not recommendable for any development areas, not only the Appian, any other languages also it's not recommendable. But yeah, if you have to do that, you have to make sure you need to change all those associated places. I will show you what's the reason behind that, because when we will be using this table and associated CDT, that is a custom data type for it, then you will know that okay, this column name is also referred at somewhere else. So we have to make changes to all those places. But yeah, there is a statement to change that column name, right? I mean that you can get it like how to change column name skill. So see, alter table, rename column, old column name to the new column name. So this is the statement you can do that. So you have to give the table name, this rename column, old column name to the new column name. Okay.
Okay.
But this is not recommendable. That's what I want to share.
Actually, I am asking in this table 2, there is a column name is employee ID, and the type is I have the type is like marker, but I have changed, like I want to change it in integer, so that can it possible to change the type?
Yeah, I mean, see if that's possible. So you just simply do that's the one of the way, and the easy way in your tool is that you select this particular column name, okay, and then you click on if you directly click on change here, it will allow you to change it. If I want, right, because I am not using this anywhere, right? So I can just simply go and say select employee ID. I can change the type here, and then I can click on save. So we have removed the underscore.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So there was a task. I asked you guys to add the foreign key relationship. Has anyone done that?
It's by creating a new CDT type, right?
No. You're going far beyond that. I was just asking the adding the foreign key relation.
Yeah, I added Ravi.
Perfect. Can you guide me how to do that? Like suppose
in SQL, I wrote a query.
Okay. By using the query, you have done that, right? Good.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
And then if you want to do it on your system, how can we do that? So let's say we have the IMS comments. If you remember, we have the employee ID and the request ID here, and I wanted to add the foreign key relationship. So how do we do that? So we go to the structure. Okay, we click on the relation view, and then we give the constant name. Let's say we'll say foreign key underscore employee ID. Okay, and add this column to the employee ID. This particular database, which table I need to select? I need to select IMS underscore employee record and that ID. So this is the ID of this particular IMS employee record table. So we are creating adding the foreign key on the employee ID column of the comments table, right? And just hit if you want to see the SQL again, you just click this one and copy this. Okay, so you will get the code, and then you just hit save. Once we hit save, it's being created. Now if you go to the structure, you will see the foreign key has been added. Okay, same way, if I want to create the for the request ID, so we'll click on relation view, and then we'll say add constant, and the name will be foreign key underscore request ID. Okay, this is going to on which column? This is going to be on the column request ID. This particular database, which table? So table is going to be IMS request details, and then for that ID, I hit save. The second foreign key has been added. Now click on the structure again, you'll see the foreign key has been added. Okay, any doubt? Now, if you now export this particular table, it will give you that foreign key mapping as well on your SQL file. Okay, same way, if I want to go to the request details, in the request details also I have a structure. I go to the relation view, I need to add fk underscore employee ID. Come on. Okay, and then it's going to be on which column? It's going to be on the employee ID column, and the table will be IMS employee. Come on, IMS, and that ID. So whatever is the primary key, it's automatically taking it. Okay, this is the primary key, so this should be the your foreign key mapping with this particular table. Hit save. Okay, is that different data type? I guess the same, right? Let me go to the structure. Employee ID is 11. Employee record, it is 11. It's the same. Then what's the issue? Maybe the name. Okay, I'll say foreign key underscore request to employee. Okay, and then add the employee ID column, and then I'll say IMS and the employee record ID. Yeah, it was the name. So this name was already taken, right? So that's why it's not considering. So request to employee, you can give some unique name, and then if you go here, you will see that employee ID has been added for the foreign key. Okay, any question, guys, for this one? Okay, so I hope everybody has created their own tables, right? Now let's go and do the insert of the tables, like, because for the table called this employee, right, we should have some initial data. So how do we insert the record? So we can insert the record from here, like click on the insert. ID is the auto increment, so we don't need it, and this employee ID will be according to this IDs, right? We will put that according to this ID. So we'll come to this part later. Initially it can be null, so I'll just leave it blank. So now let's go for the names of the employees. Let's say we say any name, Satyam K Kumar, and then employee status, I'll say active. Date of birth, let's say why I am not getting older option. One second. Whoa, what is new this thing? Come on. Okay, my numlock was lock. Okay, and department, let's say development. Email address, let's say I'll say Satya dot location, let's say Mumbai. Date of joining, let's say I'll put something like last year, and then okay, let's see. Mail and phone number, let's say I'll say +91 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, now if I hit on go, so what it will do, it will insert one row here. Now if you want, we can take this insert statement also. Now if you go to the browse, you see this one entry has been created. Okay, and then we want this employee record to be like something EMP 000 and then 1 according to this ID. So this is the one record that we have. Okay, got it? How do we insert the data into the record in the tables? Because we need this table data to be used in your application, right? So that's why we need to pre-populate all this information. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, right, if you remember this, every user who will be working on this application will be the in-house users, in-house employees of the company. So this employee should also be available into the Appian. So we'll see how to create the user in Appian also as a basic users. Okay, so we have the we are the users as a system administrator. We can go and do the development. For as a basic user, we cannot do that, right? So in the basic user, we'll have we will have the basic users only, we who cannot go and open that admin console or the cloud database or the designer. They will be only able to access only the tempo page, and if the site has been created, then site page. Okay, so let's go and make few more entries into this table. So how do we do that? Okay, let's go and I remember, if you remember, we copied that insert statement, so I can directly go to SQL. I just paste this statement here, and then I can change the information here, right? So let's say I'll say Anil S. So it's active. Let's say date of is 99. Change something. Let's say 24/02. He's in testing, and then I'll say let it be from and his joining date is 15th of March 2021. Mail and change some number like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, now paste one more, and then here I'll say Raju K. Rastogi. His date of birth is something called 5th of June, and then say 2000. He is from what do you say, development only, and then here I change that email, Raj.Rastogi. Sorry. Date of joining is 11th of November 2021. Well, it's a 1 2 3 4 5 6 7
One more question.
Okay.
When you open this cloud database, so it is showing only functions, procedures, tables, and views. So all these are with respect to SQL. So the cloud database will deal with only the SQL, is it?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. So what do you say? Cloud database only for the SQL?
When you open the cloud database, it is showing only the functions, procedures, and tables, views. So we're doing only with respect to SQL in the cloud database, is it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So here we will create all the SQLs and the tables and the procedures,
Everything,
functions.
yes.
If there is
Correct.
anything. Fine. So we can also do the same in the outside of this one, right? In the normal SQL developer database or something.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So now we have inserted 3 records into the system. Okay, let me put equal zeros. Okay, so this is a suppose prerequisites, right? As we can say that these are the data that is available in the system, and now we need to pull these records to the application and see is how do we pull this record to the system and then see. So this is right now the different entity, as you said, right? This is separate database. Now every SQL thing is going to be here now, but at some point of time we need to this data to be available to the application where we will be working, and then we also need to write the data from the application to this all these tables, right? So whenever we submit the request or something, so we need to create one connection point between these tables and then the Appian code, whatever we will be writing it, right? So how do we do that? So that's the question. I mean, how to bring the data from database to the Appian level, and then how to write the data from the Appian level to the database. Even though these are the connected, but we have to do some coding or some, you can say, the connections things that we can perform these actions, right? So we'll see that part. Before we move there, do you have any questions for this insert? How do we insert the data into the database? Any question, guys? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Yeah, go ahead.
No, Ravi.
All right. So what we have done till now is that we have just created the table, and then we have inserted few records for the employee table, so we can work with that, and we can, you know, perform the actions on the other things on the Appian code. Okay, now this is the table. Now this is the Appian environment. Now how do we bring the data from table to the Appian? For showing these things, now let me do one thing. Give me 1 second. Okay. I need to pull some files. There you go. Cool. Okay. Where did my screen go? All right. So you can see my screen, right? All right. Now this is the Appian. Okay, this is Appian, and this is the MariaDB, the database that we're talking about. All the tables we have it here. Let's say I'll say IMS employee. So we have this IMS employee table here, and then we have IMS comments here, right? Same way, there can be some Oracle tables, there can be some SQL Server and all, right? So let's go example with this IMS employee table we have it, okay? And then in Appian, we have something called data store, okay? So what happens whenever we want to make a connection between the Appian and then this table instance, we need to create one data store. That data store will be have the connection with this particular database. Okay, I'll show you, I mean, how to create data store and what is the data store. We'll see that one. So what will happen? Each data store will have some entities created within it. For example, here we will have some entity called IMS underscore we will have entity for IMS employee. Okay, same way we also have the entity called IMS underscore comments. Okay, so each entity will not be connected to this particular table, but the entire data store will be connected to this particular table, and whenever we create the entities, those entities will map to the each tables what we have it here. And how do we map it? We map it through the CDTs. Okay, so that data type is called, we need to create a data type in Appian, we call CDT. That CDT will have particular type of your table. I'll show you how do we create the CDTs. So what will happen, you know, all these CDTs that will be created, that will be mapped to this particular entities that will be creating inside the data store, and that entire data store will be connected to the Appian database. So the main relation that is happening is between data store and then Appian database, and within this data store we will be creating multiple entities, and each entities will be a type of a particular table, and in Appian we can refer as a CDT. So in every entity will be of a type of a CDT, and inside this CDT structure we will be giving the mapping of your table. From this CDT will be mapped to which table, and don't worry about it, we don't have to do it manually. all these connections things will be done by the Appian. We just have to make sure what we are doing it. Okay, so this is overview of an Appian. How does it connect with the Appian database? Okay, now let me show you first of all how do we do that. So right, okay, any confusion here, guys?
Ravi, what's the advantage of doing this data store? I mean, what is it they're trying to do by a data store? I mean, what is it?
So if you want to bring the data from database to the Appian coding level, and if you want to write the data from the Appian instance to the database level, right, you need to have this connection. So whenever you will do some perform any action, whenever you submit some request details, right, you need to write the data to the table, right? How do we write it? How do we Appian understand which table you need to write the data, right? So that's the purpose.
Just like a wrapper on the table?
Sorry?
Is it just like a wrapper on the table?
No, it's basically a connection. You can connection point. In Java, you write the connection strings, right, to make sure it's going to write which table and all. So in Appian, we don't create the connection strings, but we just do the connection configuration. Everything in Appian we do is like a kind of a configuration, little bit coding and then configuration. So we are just going to configure the things to make sure this particular data needs to go to this particular table, just
And
like the
all
instruction
this,
point for the code.
for each entity, you can go to different database in the backend?
For each data store, we can go for different database, but for within the one data store, if you have multiple entities, all we refer to the same table. Like for we have one data store here. This is for the MariaDB. Okay.
So, Ravi, what we have done is till now we have created the tables in MariaDB. Now we have to establish the connection to MariaDB by creating CDTs and data stores, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So like the way this is a one data store, which we
Is it like one data store need to have multiple data entities, table entities, or
I mean,
for example,
no,
IMS employee and comments both are in same database. So is it okay like if I have one data store and or how it is?
yeah, that's what I'm saying it here, right? One database, one data store, and within that you can have multiple entities. For each entity, you do not need to create a multiple data store. One data store is enough to have multiple entities. Okay, we'll see that one, right?
So Ravi,
yeah.
So this data store will be part of the Appian installation, right? Which will be
Yes.
available as a part of installation.
So Appian objected where we created the packages, right? There we will be creating this Appian data store.
So it's more like a metadata, whereas the tables which we created is application tables, right?
Yeah, it will be giving you the connection point of the table.
Yeah. And if we have application tables within the MariaDB, can you tell like which tables have this data store information?
So that's what we are going to establish this connection right now. We'll create a CDT and we'll see how to establish the connection with for each table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any more questions? Okay. So same way we are creating, we have given this entity, right? Suppose we have few tables which is available in Oracle environment. So we can create one more data store for Oracle and we can put the entities which will be related to this particular database. Okay. All right. Now let's go to the Appian and see how do we create a data store. Okay, perfect. So now we are within the application. You'll see incident management system we have created. So we go inside this and then we say new and then we say data store. So before we create a data store, we should be having the CDTs to be ready, right? Like if we create an entities, we need to have a CDTs, okay, which entities we need to create. So let's create a data store which will be blank initially. I'll just give the name as IMS. It is taking the prefix by itself. So I'll just say data DS. So I'll say connection point for IMS tables from MariaDB. Okay. Now you see the data source. It says data source is JDBC Appian Tomcat. Now if you see here, it says JDB is Appian. So this is by default is taking the one that is available. Now if you go and create multiple data source point in your admin console for your Oracle, for your MySQL or your SQL server, those will be listed here. Okay, so we can or select by itself, like, okay, this data store is we are going to create, it is going to connect from which database. Okay, got it? So right now we have only one data source, that is the Appian Tomcat, which is our MariaDB, which is available, which is showing it here. If you have multiple, that will be listed here. Got it? So it says, okay, data source is this one. I'll just hit create. By default, it will take the same security, like admin can have the admin access and the user will, all the user will have the viewer access. I'll say save. So if you go back to the application, this IMS data store has been created, and initially it will be blank. There is no entities here. Okay, there is no entities here. It says add entity, but it's currently blank. So leave it blank for now. We'll see how to add the entity, and then we'll see how it works. Okay, right now it is blank. Got it? Any question? Perfect. Now we have tables in our cloud database. Now to capture the values, like, okay, we will talk about the variables in the future classes, but let's give something on the variables. Now tell you one thing, why do we need okay, what is a custom data type? First of all, CDT, what is a custom data type? Anyone have any guesses? What is a custom data type? Okay. Okay,
It's
say for
user specific database.
yeah, I mean, okay, so if I ask you in that way, like, what is a primitive data type?
Primitive is like int, char, all this, right? Whatever is not, usual we use those are primitive data types, and custom is kind of it's kind of combination we can use in a single object.
Correct, exactly. So why do we need a custom data type? Like suppose in your exam for in your interface, right, you have 10 fields. Okay, you have 10 fields like name, ID, employee, whatever, right? There are certain 10 fields, and if you want to capture all those value to the database, you won't go and create 10 primitive data types, right? Which is very tough to do, right? We create 10 different variables and then collect it somewhere and then put it. So it's very difficult to handle those things, right? So what we do, we create a custom data type, which is a collection of all the primitive data types. It's like a bucket where we can handle a type of a, like, so for example, here we are the employee record. So we capture all those things in a one place, and then we bring data at our time and write the data at a time. We don't write data like multiple times or saving the data in multiple primitive data types. So collectively we are capturing all those information at one place. So that's why we require a CDT, that is called custom data type. So how do we create a CDTs? There are multiple ways of creating a CDT. Now if you go and see the new and click on data type, you see there are 4 ways of creating a CDT. One, that you can create from the scratch. Like suppose you don't need to create a CDT for always for the database thing, right? You also need to create a data type where we can simply collect all those information for our own ease purpose, right? To make our work easy and then collect all those information at one place. So we can create from the scratch. So once we create from the scratch, what it does, we need to give the name. For example, I say sample. I'll just put a sample and then I'll say CDT from scratch. Okay, I'll say create. So once we create a CDT from the scratch, it won't put any connection thing, anything is not with the table, right? You just have to create new fields, and then put something like, I'll say the ID and put the type of like the number integer, and then I'll say name and I put the type as a varchar. That is the text here. Okay, and then we save the changes. So once we click on save the changes, a CDT will be created, which will be the combination of 2 primitive data type, that is a number integer and text and ID and name here, right? So this is how we can create a CDT. Now, if you want to capture the information, we don't need two primitive data types. We will be capturing the information collectively by using this CDT. We'll see how to refer the CDT and then how to capture the values in one place, right? We will see that. But this is how we create a CDT. So one of the example is that from the scratch. So if we do the from the scratch, it is nothing to do with the table. It is nothing to do with the any database connection and all. It's just the type we are defining to collectively, bring information at one place. Okay, any doubt here? Creating a data type from the scratch? Okay, now let's go and click another data type, and it says duplicate the existing data type. Now if I say duplicate the existing data type, so what it will ask, give me the name which one you want to duplicate. I'll say, and I am a sample, so please duplicate this, and I need to give the some other name. I'll say sample 2. Okay, and then I'll say duplicate. Okay, and I hit create. So once we do that, it will create another CDT with the same fields, and it will be of type of, it will be a duplicate of the sample. So now two CDTs have been created here. Okay, so these are the two ways of creating a CDTs. Any question here? Any doubt? Okay, now third and very important way that we will be using a lot of time is going to be data type create from the database table or view. Okay, now what we are going to do, we are going to replicate the structure of a table to our CDT. Okay, so this is a very important way, and we will be using a lot of this one. So how do we do that? So we'll say create from database table or view. Now once you select this option, it will say which data source you want to bring that structure. So we'll say Tomcat. Only one is available for us, so we say Appian Tomcat, and then it says, okay, what is the table name? Once we select the data source, it will automatically start populating all those available table we have it. So we'll say IMS, I'll say employee record. So this is nothing but the table that we have it, right? And say continue. Once we say continue, it will take these all the available columns what we have in our table is going to come here now. Okay, let's start with the namespace. What's the namespace? So namespace is the unique identifier of your application for each CDT. So our application is IML, so it says, okay, this is the namespace of your CDT is for your IMS application. Now name, if you want to change something, if you want to put some like IMS employee record instead of you say IMS employee details, you can change here. But usually it's having a good practice to keep the same name of your data type according to the table, so you can easily identify which table it has been mapped to. Okay, so this is the employee record. Now put some description. This CDT is mapped with IMS underscore employee record table. Okay, now Appian talk about some best practices. So one of the best practices that Appian suggests is that the column names or the CDT parameter that you will have it should be the camel casing. So here we need to make some changes because it is getting it by default. So what it does, it's convert every column name into the small case. So we just need to make it as a camel casing. So we'll just make as a camel casing. This change we need to do that. Even if you don't do that, that is fine.
You just repeat it. What is it? Camel case.
Camel case, yeah. Start with the smaller case, and then if you have another running, another text to that, and it says N capital. Okay. All right. So this is the way, and it also refers to the type. If it is a varchar, it will say text here, and if it is an integer, it will be number integer in your type here. Okay. Now there is a checkbox. This checkbox says also create a data store entity for this type. Because we are going to create this CDT from the database and table, it says, do you need to create any entity? Yes, I need to create an entity for this one. So please create that one. So what we need to do, we need to just check the checkbox. Once you check the checkbox, Appian will search in your application, within your application where you are creating this CDT, do you have any data store? If you have any data source created, it will by default take it. So if you remember, we have created this IMSDS, and then it will say what is your entity name you want to put. So by default, the entity name will be say IMS employee record, same as your CDT name. If you want to distinguish, you can put underscore entity. If you don't want to, that is also fine. It's not going to make any difference. It separates within itself. It don't mix up the things. So if you want, you can put it just for your understanding purpose. We'll see how it has been reflected to the data source, and we'll see. So any question here, guys?
So I have one quick question here, and if you see the fourth row, right, fourth column, the data type we can change, right, based on the field name.
Here.
No, fourth column.
Oh yeah, this field type. Yeah, you can change that,
Yeah,
but
so we can.
Appian, yeah, you can change that, but it will, if your data is varchar, right, you cannot make it to the integer, because in your table it is varchar. So Appian suggests for varchar you can have only text or encrypted text. You can't have
Okay,
other.
in future, like maybe once entity is created in future, if you want to change it, we can change it. Like
yes,
internally, internally in the code.
But before that, you have to make the changes into the database. Then only you can change it here. So like if you want to change this date of joining is a date, right? And if you want to change the date and time, right? So first you need to go and update that type in the database, and then you come to the Appian, then you update it here as well.
So my another question is, like, if we are making any change in the column names of the table, so it will automatically reflect in all the data types, or like how it is, like we need to.
No, it won't automatically. It won't reflect automatically. You need to make that change.
Okay. So for example, if we are using multiple places everywhere, we need to go and do it.
So that's what, right? So you don't change. You don't use the column name in your application coding and multiple places. You use the CDT name, all the multiple places.
Correct. That I understood. So the
yeah,
CDT
so that's what I'm saying.
refresh, right? Entity we need to refresh, and
you need to update the CDT and try to not change the name of your column, whatever you have. Like suppose date of joining, it is here, right? So if you are using this DOJ at every places, don't change this one. You change the mapping, but don't change this one, right? If you change this one, then you have to go and change every multiple places where you are using it. That's why I said in the earlier stage, do not. It's not recommendable to change that column name and type. So you decide it first, and then you go ahead. And even if you want to do that, it's possible to do that, but that will be hectic work.
Okay. So if we are adding any extra column, so at least that it will be displayed automatically in the entity.
No, you have to do that. You have to get that mapping. You need to add it.
Even the new columns or anything, we need to like refresh it.
Yes. Yeah. Because that will update your CDT, right? Because you are adding the column in your data store entity, and then you are the CDT is in your Appian instance, right? So it won't impact by itself. You need to make that change.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So now what we are going to do, we are going to. Okay. Yeah.
Just small thing. I came also like to drive back
I'm sorry, your voice is very noisy. Is coming out.
Yeah, I'm outside. I have to drive back home. You'll be sharing the recording, right? I'll record the recording once I'm home.
Recording, yeah, it's going to. I'm recording a session. You will get it.
Yeah. So thank you. I'll drop for today.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. So I'll hit on create. I hit on create. So it will take some time because we are doing some mapping and all. It's done. The CDT has been created now. The CDT has been created, and then if you go to the data store, you see if you open this data store, this entity has been also created. So it has two things. It has the name of that entity and it is the type of the entity. So this name that we have given and the type is the CDT type. Okay. So this is how we create the entity. Now, if you want to create the entity manually, that is also possible. We'll see that option also in future. How do we create this manually? We verify this. If we do the verification, it says entity mapping verified. It means the connection has been established correctly. There's no issue. you can just go and close this entity. Okay, and then this is the data type that we have been created from the table. So any question here, guys? You automatically see the primary key is automatically taking it here. So any question, guys?
We have created a key, right? One is from the scratch, and the other one is from the duplicate, and the third one is from the table, right? So in the data source, it's showing only third one. Is it so?
Yeah, I mean, so we created the CDT. We have created 3 CDTs. We created only one entity.
Okay.
If you go here, CDT can be multiple, right? But it's not, every CDT is not necessary to be connected to the data source, right? So these CDTs that we created, this for like, for example, I mean, for the training purpose, I show you that how do we create a CDT from the scratch, but not necessarily every CDT is required to connect to the database, right? Some you can create for your own purpose. Instead of capturing the values into the multiple primitive variables, we need to capture it at one place. So that's why we may create the CDTs for that purpose also, right? So these are not going to connect with your data store. Only one that we are going to connect to the data store, which we will be required to pull the information and write the data to the table. So that's why we create this connection. Okay.
So if you want to make these other two into a data set, so where do you that? You don't have any data entity option and all for the other two.
So if you want to do that, right, this CDT, which table this needs to be go? I mean the type. If you see this one, right, this has 2 columns. It has only ID and the name. So, right, if you want to map that thing, we can do that, but still we need to perform, say, which entity we need to write it. And okay, we'll see that part. The fourth option of creating a data type is called XST file, and we'll see what is the XST file and how do we put the connection there. Okay, we'll see that one. So any question till is the third part, like how do we create a CDT from the database?
Ravi, if you want to add a column in the CDT, means if you add that column in the table, it can reflect on directly on the CDT.
Yes, you can do that. I'll show you. See, there are multiple ways of doing that one, but I'll show you the best way to do that, which will make sure the connection is perfect. It won't break in future. So we are going to see that part. How do we do that? Okay, we'll see that part today. Not today, then next class we'll definitely see that. But before we move to the fourth type, do we have any question here? The third way, how do we create a table CDT from the table and all? Right? Okay. Now let's go to the fourth part that says is create the data type by using the XST. So what is an XST file? How does it look like? So we have already created one CDT, right? So let's make use of this one. Let's show this one. So click on the setting icons of this particular CDT. Okay, let me show them from the beginning. So this is the employee record CDT. I open this CDT. Go to the setting icon and click the download XST. So once we download the XST file, if you open this file, then you will see that it has all those connection and everything into this is mentioned, all those columns. So now you see that one. The first is a complex type. It says, and then target, complex type. This is the name of the CDT. Now, if you say what table it has been attached. So if you see this within the annotation, it says @table. So this is the name of your table. So this JPA annotations, we call it JPA annotation @table. It is nothing but JPA annotations, which means that this CDT is being connected from which table. So this is employee record table. Okay, for this annotation. Now, if you go to the elements, each element refers to a column. Now you see that one, right? If each element, there are multiple elements, so each element refers to a column, and then each column, like first name, this is the name of your CDT column, and then @column JP notation reflects that what is the name of the column in your database, and what is the column definition of that one. If you see the first one, it has many things. It has @column, also it has generated value, and also it has the @ID. What is the meaning of @ID? What is the meaning of generated value? I'll tell you. So for @table refers to the name of the table. @column refers to the name of the column. @ID refers that this particular column is a primary key. And @generated value refers that this particular column is also has an auto increment. Okay, so this is there will be many questions. I mean, people ask the questions, what are the JPO annotations we have? So you can say at least 5, that is more than enough. You say at the rate of table, that which refers the table name, at the rate of column, which refers the column name, at the rate of ID, which refers to the primary key of that particular column, and at the rate of generated value, which refers to the auto increment property of the particular column. Okay, now this is the XST file of your database. Now if you want to add another column to it, right, so what do? We first go and create the column into the table, and then we just add one more element section here. Like, so for example, I'll say copy this. Let's do one thing. Let's create a one column in the table and then see how do we add it. Okay, so this is the XST file of your employee record. Now let's go to the table and add a column to it. So employee record, suppose I want to add a column. Okay. Tell me guys, anything that we want to add?
Yeah, make like is active.
Yeah, we can do that. So we just go and say after the phone number, click one column. I'll say is active. Let's for the integer, and initially it will be null. I'll say one length. Well, that is also fine if you don't keep it. Okay, so this has been added. Is active, we have added one. Now let's go to the employee CDT. I'll show you from the scratch. I open this employee record and download the XST file. If you download the XST file, this is what is going to be downloaded. And then we need to copy this one of the set. Just copy one of the set, don't need to write it, and paste it here. And here we need to change the name as is active. So this is the name is going for the CDT, and in is database also we have is active. Okay, and this is going to be integer, int only. Let me just confirm. Yeah, int entity. Here it's going to be int. I guess that's what the keyword column definition is. The integer. Yeah, I'll just put int. I don't put just say one. This is the size we have, right? And then save this one. Save this file. So we have saved this file. Now go back to the database, click the setting icons and say create new version from XST. So this is the fourth way of creating your CDT. You can also upload the XST file. Go to the upload and upload this particular this is the one.
That one only XML.
Yeah, I mean the thing. What is this one? Okay, this is the table that we
top one you have to upload.
So it says data store verification pass. It means the connection has been established successfully, and we see now it has been added here. Okay, so this is how you can add a column to your database and refer to the CDT as well, which is the safest way of doing that, and also the good way to do that. In that way, you don't have any error. Okay, mismatch and everything, because you are mapping it clearly. So this is how we can create. Now if you talk about the fourth way of creating the CDT, so if you go to the data type and import the XST file and upload the XST file, it will create the record for, I mean the CDT for you. Okay, so you need to have the XST of your CDT. So that is the fourth way of creating the custom data types. So we talk about how many ways we can create a CDT. Any question, guys?
So if you want to update any existing field, newly added fields to the existing CDT, you have to open that table and you have to download that XST and you have to modify. And then you have to re-upload that. So it will update the same existing.
Correct. Yeah. That is the best way of doing it, because that way it makes sure that you don't have any error. So okay, you can also by the, what happens, I'll tell you. You can also just click on here and then add it, right?
So
But in
here
that
also we
way,
have an add new field, right? So we can do in
yeah,
that way also. Right?
yeah, you can do that. But that time we have, sometimes what happens, if the column names get mismatched or something, that it doesn't take that particular relation and it does not put the proper string, so sometimes it fails while writing or reading the data. So that's why I can suggest you can do that. See, Appian is also improving by itself, right, a lot. So they are improving their way of doing this one. But the best way is that if you download the SHT file, you will have the control what you are doing it.
Okay.
All right. So any question, guys?
Yeah. So is it required like CDT and the table should have the same columns? I mean, same number of columns? Not required, right?
No, it's not required. No, you can have lesser columns as well in your CDT.
Okay.
But that is a very tricky thing, because what will happen if you do not write the data properly? What it will do for the other columns, it might go and make those values as null. Like suppose you have 10 columns in your CDT or in your table, and all the 10 rows have the and column has the value, right? But while writing, you are writing only the 5 columns. So what will happen? It will update the 5 columns, but other 5 columns will make it null. If you create a new row, it will only provide the value for those 5 columns which what you are writing it, but other 5 will remain null. So that's a very tricky thing to handle it. So you have to make sure if you are using very lesser CDTs, it should not make the other columns null while updating it.
In case like if I'm going to update something, some particular only particular column, right? That time like it's not required to have a full CDT. I mean, whichever is there in the database.
You can go with the you can go with the lesser fields, but you just have to make sure that you configure in such a way that it doesn't make the other fields as a null.
Okay.
And nowadays people are started using these stored procedures and all, right, for writing 1 or 2 columns, updating the 1 or 2 columns, right? Not need to write the CDT and all.
Okay.
We'll see that all those smart services. How do we do that? Yeah.
And
right,
is there any way like we can use JSON structure or something like to create the CDT, or only XSDs?
No. These are the 4 ways that you can create a CDT.
Okay.
Question, guys, please. Only few people are asking questions. Not good.
So one question. So when you are creating this data structure or data store in the third way, so from the table, so you are selecting the data source and it is populating that table. So when you are creating the table in the first day, so the table you haven't chosen anywhere like a data source and all, right? How this particular table IMS employee details or IMS request details is mapped under the data source Tomcat.
So while creating the data source, we remember we are giving the source of the table.
Yeah.
So
So we have given the table.
The data source. So we are saying go and find the table in this data source.
Can you just do it one more time? So that's what how you are selecting this data source, but how this particular table is coming under that particular data source?
Because that tables are available within that data source. So if you create
so
a
right
data
now
source, here data source we are selecting, right? So this connection is getting connected with that particular data stored entity what we have. So whatever table is there, all will be table and view, all will be reflecting there, will reflect there.
Okay. So at the same time, this Appian application will connect with 2 different databases. One is like SQL Server and the other one is Oracle.
Each data store will we have their own data sets. Like suppose this is the one that we created for the Tomcat. Another you can, if you want to create with another table, you need to create one more data store for that one.
I'm not talking about tables. I'm not talking about tables. Say for example, one table is in SQL Server and the other table is in Oracle.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. Suppose this data stores is now connected to the MariaDB. If you want to connect for your another table, like you cannot get your Oracle table here. You cannot connect that. It's not possible because that will not reflect. So what you need to do, you need to create another data store for yourself and for the Oracle, because this one is connected for the MariaDB. So for different database, you need to create different data store.
Different data store. Is it?
Yeah, sorry.
So I need to connect a different data store, then it will connect with another database. Is it?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
One minute, guys. My daughter is calling. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing, what is the current version that we are using? The Appian is
It is the
using?
latest version. If you want to know about the versions, you just simply go here and say about Appian. It's a 22.4.
Okay, so I think I remember like every year they are releasing 3 or 4 versions, right?
4 versions for each year.
Now we are in 2023, so we are still using 2022 version.
Because the 2023.1 has not been released yet.
Okay.
That most probably that will come at end of the quarter.
Oh, okay. Say for example, we are in 2022.4. So if they release new version, our application will get updated automatically. Is it, or we need to enable any patches or something like that?
Now, for your practice environment, you don't have to do that. For your Appian cloud instance, in the organization, for your cloud, there are 2 instances, right? Cloud and the on-premise. So for the cloud, you don't have to do that. The Appian team will do that, but they will just say this is the scheduled time. Please, note that one, or inform the customers, or most probably they will do that off business hours. Okay, and for the on-premise, they need to deploy the patch. So that will be done by the Appian server team.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. Any questions on this CDTs and all?
So Ravi, where does this folders will be located? Are they going to store in the database, or the data store folders and also the other folders?
So which folders?
The data store?
No. This folders are not in database store. This is the Appian object that we created, just to make the connection between the Appian and the database. Even though the database is a part of Appian instance only, but we need to put a connection string to bring the data and to write the data to that database, right? So that is what we created. So yeah.
So those will be in the file format somewhere in the Appian installation.
Appian in a server. Yeah, Appian server.
Okay.
Yeah. Any more question, guys? Okay, so let's put a task for tomorrow. So please create the CTs till the I have just created for the employee record, right? So please create it for the comments, and please create it for the request details as well. We need that, and then yeah, that's what. Do that till that level. And tomorrow is a Friday, so every Friday I used to see the application of the each participant. So I'll see whatever you have done. So no skipping, right? Okay, right? So please do that one.